Welcome to another session of BMIT Talks. Today's topic is backups. And together with me, Jack Mizzi, I have Ian Chetcuti, a product manager at BMIT Technologies. And together we will, over the next 20-30 minutes, go through some salient aspects of backups, its importance, and its role within an organization. We will do it in a Q&A format, so basically we will read out a question which has been generally raised by our customers or people who we engage with, and then we will provide a quick answer to that particular question. And the first question that we will be going through is at Ian. So Ian, I will invite you to go to the first question and answer.
Even though there are a lot of cloud services available, it is still your responsibility to back up your own data. So even though your data is available anywhere, you can access it from any location where you have an internet connection, that doesn't mean that your data is necessarily safe. It is still your responsibility to back up your data. It's easy to take it for granted because your data, as I said, is always available. And even though it is always available, there is little to no protection against human error. So not all cloud services provide you with file versioning, for example. Not all cloud services offer the ability to restore files once they've been deleted, and that does not factor in human error, malicious attacks. Furthermore, it doesn't provide you with the configuration backups. You may be able to protect your data, but you're not protecting your configurations. You're not protecting any personal settings that you have on your workstations, for example.
So basically, you're talking that you need to have a solution that is built on a strategy, on requirements of that particular customer.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, which takes us to the next question. A backup strategy is based, the initial step is what is the business requirement? What are the business considerations that need to be factored in order to ensure that whatever backup strategy you adopt is effective for that particular business. That clarified, the next stage is to understand what is the purpose of your backup. Why are you backing up? Beyond the obvious, what are the additional requirements, obligations, considerations that your particular business has, which tie in to what sort of backups you need to implement within your business in order to ensure that there is no interruption to your business if or when a backup needs to be resorted to. Once that is clarified, one needs to look at the technical options available. There are many options available, but there are less options available based on the particular requirements of the business. So ideally, you sit down with someone who has the experience and expertise in backups, in business continuity, in disaster recovery solutions, such that together you will discuss what your needs are, what are the options available, do a cost-benefit analysis of the various options available versus your requirements, and based on that you will come up with a number of options. And those technical options are then filtered further depending on the type of model you want to adopt. What does this mean? Are you going to do everything in-house? Are you going to outsource some or all your backup requirements to a third party, say, for example, BMIT Technologies? And that decision is very much central and critical to your whole backup experience. For example, your tech advisor might advise on a mix of online and offline backups, might advise on whether that offline backup can be spread over multiple geographies. It all boils down to the first question. What does your business really need and how it can be best served? For that, a technical advisor can help you answer those questions.
Well, the most obvious reason would be if your primary location is compromised, you need to make sure that your backups are still safe. So that is the cardinal reason as to why ideally backups are kept off-site. Then you need also to consider what happens if, for example, your data is compromised in-house. So if you have malicious attacks internally, for example, you need to make sure that you have a copy which isn't necessarily accessible from anywhere or even from anyone. So that is where air-gapped backups may also prove useful. Air-gapped backups means that the backup images are not accessible through the internet or through a LAN or through a network connection. Those are important. And with air-gapped backups and with off-site backups, you have the basic principles of disaster recovery as well. It's not necessarily a disaster recovery plan, so having off-site backups doesn't really constitute a disaster recovery plan, but it constitutes a main pillar for disaster recovery.
We are not living in the 90s anymore or before that, where backups and disaster recovery or a business continuity plan was only the prerogative of large organizations. Thanks to technology, to developments in the way we consume IT, everyone, every business of every size has access to backup, first of all, but more importantly, to a proper, solid backup strategy. And in order to achieve this, no matter the size of your business, once again, it is important that you tap into expertise, you tap into experience, talk to people like BMIT in order to define what you actually need. But once that hurdle has been overcome, there are multiple options for any business of any size to go into a low CAPEX commitment, into a model that is scalable and variable to the size of your organization. So if you're a smaller organization, you don't need to pay as much as a larger organization. And if you want to add or reduce the data sets that need to be backed up, that varies depending on the scale of your backup. So if you're small, or if you're medium, or if you're large, there is usually a direct relationship to the costs involved. For example, using the backup as a service which we offer as BMIT, you can not just tap into the technologies, not just tap into the storage, but also tap into best practices, best methodologies as to how you can secure your backup and also secure and ensure that those backup sets are accessible if and when required in an effective way. And backup goes beyond backing up your server, backing up your hard disks, just to put a simple example. Nowadays, our dependency on productivity tools such as Microsoft 365, email, SharePoint, document repositories, OneDrive, and all this, it is critical that these are captured as part of your backup. And this may come to a surprise to some, out of the box, this data is not backed up. You need to take care of backing it up external to your subscription whether it is Office 365, Microsoft 365, Google Docs, or whatever solution you are using.
There is also another factor. So, as you were rightly saying, cost effectiveness at the end of the day is also very important with backups. So, you need to find the balance. How much are you going to spend on your strategy versus how much return are you going to get from it? There are a lot of tools nowadays that can help increase the cost effectiveness of your backup. For example, you can use your backups for file versioning. So let's say that the latest version of the file that you're working on got corrupt, for example. You can use your backups to easily restore to a previous version. You can use your backups to spool up additional environments that you can use for testing or BI purposes, for example. You can use them whenever you need them only, and you don't necessarily need to keep a replication environment available all the time. You can use them for alarming. So your backups obviously need to be taken from your source workloads, and those source workloads can also have the monitoring tools on them, the same as is being used as the backup agents to also monitor the health of your source workloads. They can let you know when storage is running out. They can let you know when one of your workloads has failed to back up, either because the workload is offline or maybe the source data is not reachable, for example.
So what you're saying is that backup is not there for disaster situations only, but also as an effective tool to make the most out of your data sets.
Correct. And apart from that, it can also improve the security estate of your business. So let's say that you have a ransomware attack, for example. Someone has actually encrypted your data and has retained the key. What are you going to do to recover your data? Are you going to give in and pay the attacker in the hopes that he gives you back your data? It's not guaranteed. With backups, you can make sure and you can actually improve your security by protecting against these sorts of attacks, for example.
A critical consideration when putting in place a backup plan is that you need to be sure that whatever you're backing up can be restored in full, can be restored in a timely manner, and can be restored to ensure that your business can keep on working as if there was no interruption as a result of the need to restore. And that is an obvious consideration, but a consideration that is, from our experience, often overlooked when you are doing backups in a do-it-yourself fashion. When you are backing up on your on a memory stick and you're just throwing the backup there and hoping for the best, if you need to resort to restoring, is not a proper backup solution. Because if there is a ransomware attack, generally whoever is attacking you takes all the time and the patience to lock various backups historically over days or weeks. So it is important that you test your data in a timely manner to ensure that your backups are not compromised as much as your live data. And for that, you need restore scheduling, restore testing, data integrity tests, and a series of other best practices to ensure that whatever data is being backed up can be restored.
Exactly.
And once again, I emphasize on the need not to adopt a do-it-yourself method. Speak to people like us. We can help and we can assist in putting in place the right tools that are cost-effective and that work when you need them to work.
Actually, having a poor backup strategy can be even worse sometimes than having no strategy at all, because it builds false confidence, and whenever you need it,
False security, yeah.
false security, if you need it and you don't find it, it can actually be worse. So that's one of the important points when it comes to choosing the right provider. The short answer is yes. So you need to update your backup policy. You need to make sure that you're covering your infrastructure. You need to make sure that you're covering any new workloads, for example, and any new data sets. You need to make sure that your recovery site is adequate as well. So if you need to restore, is your recovery site up to the job? Those are all tasks, those are all maintenance action items that you need to carry out regularly. That's a lot of effort at the end of the day. You need to make sure, as Jack rightly said, that your backups will actually work. You need to make sure that your data is being protected at all times using, for example, antivirus software. And you need to keep your OSs, you need to keep your backup agents updated all of the time. So that is quite a bit of effort. There are a number of points that you can take to measure the efficiency, one of which is the restore point objective. So basically, the age of the data since your last backup image. So for example, if you back up your data every 24 hours, you can say that worst case scenario, your data will be 24 hours old. There's also the other KPI, which is called the restore time objective, which is basically the age of the data until an operational impact is felt. Okay, so how long can your business go without recovering data before your operations are actually affected? These metrics are typically taken on each workload, okay, and once you've mapped these KPIs on each workload, you can start then to understand how each workload factors in and plays into your backup strategy. How critical is this workload? Can I afford to back up maybe this workload a little bit less? Does this workload need to be backed up more frequently? Is this data on this workload very critical and it needs maybe real-time data protection on it? So all of these can be used to assess the criticality of your data, and it can be used to build an efficient backup strategy at the end of the day.
The short answer to this is that backups are a core component of every compliance situation, obligation that an organization might have. So if we look at the various obligations, there is generally the requirement to have business continuity. There need to be plans in place for a disaster recovery situation, and backups form a critical component into that. So if one had to look at the very basic requirement of a compliance sphere, one will find backup there. And as we've said, business continuity, disaster recovery, and backups are a chain into a series of obligations that a business needs to look at when ensuring that they are compliant. And one point on this is that not all backups are equal. There are backups and there are backups. And in order to be compliant, you need to approach backups in a proper way, in a secure way, and tap into best practices and and methodologies that ensure compliance from a regulatory perspective, from a best practice perspective, from an obligation towards customers' perspective. So yes, backups are critical to compliance, but not all backups are compliant. Our suggestion is do not go for a do-it-yourself approach. Talk to people like BMIT, talk to a managed services provider. They have the solutions, they have the experience, they have the methodologies in place to help you ensure compliance with the least effort and in a very cost-effective manner. Backup as a service, disaster recovery as a service, the use of multiple locations, the use of existing technologies are all there to help you achieve what you set out for as your backup requirements in a very cost-effective manner.
So I want to also build up on your points. How can BMIT Technologies Managed Backup help your business achieve a good backup strategy then? We basically can help consult, can help understand what you really need, especially if you're not that technical. We will meet up with you, we'll understand exactly what you need out of your backups, how you can achieve a solid backup strategy. We can help you with the implementation. We can also manage your backup strategy. We can reach out and schedule out backup policy reviews, for example, and we can also help you with scheduling data restores and with actual restores. So how can we help you? If you find out that you've lost data, for example, you can reach out to us 24/7 and we can help you restore data at that time. For example, could be during the early hours of the morning, could be during the weekends. Data loss events can happen anytime, so they're not really restricted to happen during office hours. So having us managing your backup strategy means that effectively you don't need to be there 24/7 to manage your strategy. We can help you out with that.
And with that answer, we conclude this Q&A about backups. We hope you found it interesting, and if you need any assistance or help, please contact us and we will be more than glad to assist your business. Thank you.
Thank you.